Today. Sorry about that. Okay, let me adjust this. So, yeah. Odd. It usually looks different. I don't know why that is. Maybe my stand is a little off. Well, it's all about adaptation and adjustment in life, isn't it? Even when you go live. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Ronja Vieth, and this is WTF, Wholesome Twin Flame Coaching. A minute late today, but it doesn't matter because I usually try and stick to less than 30 minutes anyway. So we'll just finish on time, maybe even a little earlier, so that everybody actually gets a chance to watch these episodes on twin flame relationships, what they mean, what they are, how to negotiate them, and get some coaching and life advice from me that you can also apply for when you write to me through any of my media channels. And just generally to get some advice on the relationships overall, because they're so complicated yet so blissful and definitely a bit challenging, hence the title. Okay, so welcome everybody. Recently I made an acquaintance via Facebook, lovely medium to network and connect with other people. I made the connection with a dating coach, actually, and her name is Cait Morrigan. We are actually going to record a masterclass for her YouTube channel as well, sometime this week. And next week on Monday, she'll actually be, my podcast partner in a way, somebody that I will be talking to about twin flame relationships, what they mean, and get her perspective on things. She has been in the business for a while too. Helps mainly women to negotiate the scene of dating and gives really valuable advice. So I'm looking forward to having her here on the show and learning valuable things from her next week, Monday. So keep your eye out for that. And if you want to join us live with some questions, please do. Again, it'll be at 2:30 UK time, as usual. Actually, the UK will enter summer or daylight savings time this Sunday, finally. We're a month behind the States. But so just use an online time zone converter so that you get the time right. Because I can barely remember my own time here in the UK. So it'll be Monday afternoon, 2:30 London time. That's GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, as usual. Okay, well, let's see. I have a little more adjusting to do. I'm way too close to the camera. And for whatever reason, it keeps flipping over. I don't know why. Let's see if I can adjust this. Not so sure. Anywho, so today we don't have any live watchers yet, but that is okay. So what I wanted to talk about today, kind of like as an introduction to my masterclass with Cait this week. She's been wondering if we could talk about the following questions. Namely, how can trauma affect the relationship if you don't even realize that you have it? Because we got to talking about emotional trauma and how our personal emotional trauma keeps us from not only living a fulfilled life, but also from living a fulfilled relationship. And I realized, the more people I talk to, the more clients that I talk to in my coaching business, they don't even realize that they have emotional trauma, because emotional trauma manifests in so many different ways. And I might have mentioned that before. Most people think that trauma is a matter of having experienced something extremely horrible, like in war situations or physical abuse situations or a really horrendous accident and things like that. But what we don't realize is that there's not just physical trauma, but also emotional trauma. Because if we use Levine's definition of trauma, it is really something that is overwhelming and that can feel life-threatening. That, of course, is different for everybody. Everybody has a different constitution. Everybody has different life experiences. Some of us are more resilient to certain things, others are not. So in regard to emotional trauma, anything emotional that becomes so overwhelming that we don't know how to deal with it anymore can be considered emotional trauma. And that includes categories such as divorce. For some people, they have been in a relationship for a while that just kind of deteriorated slowly and more or less painfully, but so gradually that by the time they get to the point of divorce, yes, it is sad and regrettable, but it is a smart way to move forward, to just go separate ways. And the hurt is very manageable. Whereas there are other couples where one of the partners did not see it coming and suddenly are faced with separation, having to live on their own, having to find their own job and income source, possibly, figuring out how to tell the kids, how to deal with the kids during this time, how to negotiate life with the kids afterwards, like how to incorporate the other parent, etc., etc. And that can be very overwhelming if there's so many emotions involved that we don't know how to deal with, depending on how well equipped we are already by life to deal with certain things. There's the grief aspect of divorce as well, or any kind of breakup, really, that people underestimate. We allow grief for bereavement. Yet, if we separate from somebody, and that doesn't necessarily only include romantic relationships, if we find a very valuable friendship suddenly breaking apart completely, it can be very, very hurtful. It is just as hurtful as losing somebody to death at times. And we can recognize that as a legitimate source of emotional stress, which, if we do not know how to deal with it and it becomes overwhelming and we feel it is so overwhelming that it's nearly life-threatening, it is emotional trauma. So the stages of grief that people go through, like anger and denial and depression and acceptance and whatnot, if we don't know how to deal with these stages, which, by the way, are not linear, they are intermingled, they come and go at any given time, at any level of intensity, really. If, for instance, other people do not take it seriously because, just a girlfriend that you broke up with, what's the big deal? All you did was, have coffee with her once a week. But if that particular girlfriend was your best friend and she has been such a strong support in your life for, some time, and the length of time doesn't actually even matter. It's the intensity of the relationship that matters, really. And suddenly something happens and you're no longer friends. That's a major bereavement that people do not take seriously. And not having that taken seriously by other people, especially other people that you trust and would like some support from as well, that can be very hurtful in addition to that kind of grief. So you see how some sort of emotional event that is very intense and can easily be overwhelming can really quickly turn into something really overwhelming when the support that you are expecting or at least wanting from others during that time doesn't come. If you don't have any other resources to at least, share and lighten your load by sharing about your feelings, or if you are in a position or have a personality that does not necessarily allow you to share those feelings. How many of us think that we have to keep our feelings stuffed inside because we have been told all of our lives that, you shouldn't feel this way, or this is just silly, or don't be ridiculous, it's just a friend that you had coffee with, or, well, people do break up, get over it. Emotions are valuable. They show us where we hurt and where we need to heal that hurt. And if other people don't take it seriously and the response from others prompts us to not take it seriously, we keep burying it up, and don't get rid of them. Something that's buried is still there. It's just latent. And then when more of these occurrences happen, they just stack up until we finally can no longer take it. So one of the first things to become resilient and to learn how to deal with any kind of emotional trauma is to be so resilient that you don't even experience any emotion as trauma or traumatic. And we best do that by just learning generally to accept our emotions, to express them in a safe way, and just have them diffuse, really. As David Hawkins talks about in his book, Surrender, it is not that easy a process. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't, but there are other methods that you can use. The way he describes it, for instance, is that you just feel the emotion until it dissipates. It's kind of like a gaseous cloud where it just kind of expands until it finally mingles with the surrounding gas of the air so much that it becomes negligible. It's just gone. The trick to doing that, however, is to not keep thinking about it, because every time you think a thought that prompts that emotion will then perpetuate the emotion. And that's really the tricky part. And I've learned that to get to the thinking mechanism that will so often prevent us from just feeling the emotion and letting it dissipate is our own personal judgment. Our personal judgment that says, well, I shouldn't even be thinking or feeling this. Well, yeah, but you are. So a good step would be to simply accept the fact that it is so and forgive yourself for it, allow it, accept it, in order to be able to release it. There are other people, of course, telling us we shouldn't. That is not helping. So this work is very often more easily done in private, where you can just sit with yourself in meditation, quietly, quiet your mind, not stop your thought. That's what I teach my meditation classes. It's not about stopping the thought, it's about detachment from the thought, non-attachment. Thoughts are inevitable. We are humans. We think things through most of the time. The trick is not to get too attached. The moment we get attached, we go down a rabbit hole again. That's what you're trying to avoid. So just by acknowledging, well, there's this thought, well, I'm going to let it go now and return to the feeling without thinking, then the feeling actually has a chance to dissipate. So what does that have to do with twin flame relationships? Everything. Just like with any other relationship, really, but especially with twin flame relationships, because twin flame relationships, as I've mentioned before, they are so intense because the two souls are so entwined. We very often feel what the other person feels, and if they are confused about what they feel, how the hell do we know what we feel when it's not even us feeling it? I mean, it's us feeling it, but it's not even our own emotions that we're feeling. So the first step would be to, learn to differentiate, is it actually my emotion or is it my twin flame's emotion? One way of doing that, which I find very helpful, is to stand flat-footed on the ground, preferably outside, but you cannot always be outside barefoot to actually earth. So just make sure that you have your feet flat on the ground, barefoot or at least without shoes, because then you feel the ground better and you can ground yourself better. And just say, whatever is not mine, I let go. And take a deep breath doing that, a deep belly breath. And very often you notice that, wow, this was not even my stuff. Amazing. So we can be grateful that we have this connection with our twin flame and with other people, but especially with our twin flame. But so often we take on things that are not ours and that are not ours to take on. And that's the key word here. They are not ours to take on. Everybody has their own responsibility to take care of this stuff. So when we wake up in an ornery mood in the morning, and we don't know why, because we didn't actually have any, distressing thoughts in our waking up process, try that exercise. Feet flat on the ground, standing up or sitting down, at least, straight spine, feet flat on the ground, and say, anything that is not mine, I now let go. Breathe it out. Actually imagine some light washing through you and washing in all of this into the ground, and see how you feel then. And I, for myself, 100% of the time, I felt an immediate shift. It might not have been a shift where I was like, oh, I'm happy now. Certainly not. But it already shifted so much. And my mood changed. And then, take it a step further, I say, whatever is not 5D and above, which is unconditional love and healing, I now let go. So the same procedure, feet flat on the ground, deep breath, focus with your eyes closed, and then let it all go. I should let go of everything that is lower than 5D. And that would include all those emotions that we know are lower vibration emotions, such as jealousy, anger, anxiety, depression, any kind of melancholy, all sorts of things. According to the scale of emotions in David Hawkins, for instance, it is acceptance where the vibration changes to higher vibration. So unless you can feel yourself in a state of utter acceptance of everything that is going on, the good and the bad, you know that you're low vibration. And that is something that you can choose to let go of by choosing only 5D and above, only unconditional love. And don't worry if you're not there, if you still kind of hate your neighbor, but at least choose 5D and above, choose unconditional love. And then things will occur to you more easily that will allow you to actually tap into those feelings rather than the lower vibrational feelings. So you can do that with your twin flame. You can let go of whatever is not yours. You can shift your own emotion. By shifting your own emotion, you then in return help your twin flame because they can obviously feel whatever you're feeling. So very often with my twin flame, when we connect, even when we're far apart for a while, and we connect, I can actually tap in and say, okay, how did your day go? And I can tell exactly. It wasn't going so well for a while, and then I did my exercise and suddenly shifted something. Suddenly something shifted for them. That was exactly right when I had done that exercise. So we are very intricately connected, and we can use it to our advantage. So how can we use it to our advantage? Well, emotional trauma that we don't know we have can manifest in a lot of ways. We can feel depressed. We can feel easily overwhelmed by emotional challenges. We can feel jealous because it would be emotional trauma that has impacted our sense of self-worth and our ability to self-love. And there can be anxiety. There can be a deep sense of loneliness, which is different from the dark night of the soul. And on a more physical level, even when we're extremely tired, it's our soul asking us to connect to the divine. We do that more easily in sleep. So our body demands more sleep, for instance. Or when we overeat, we try and put on an armor in order to protect our feelings, because really somewhere we are hurt about something and that's a hurt that we have not addressed. Or when we have other kinds of addictions, such as shopping or TV, or always having to listen to something just so it distracts us from thinking and being with ourselves in quietude. Those are all coping mechanisms that can show you, that are indications really that there is some sort of emotional trauma. At the very least, some pain, some hurt that should be addressed really if you are striving to become a more whole person. I say whole because I mean healthy in spirit, mind, and body, really. And that very often includes and involves a spiritual journey, a spiritual evolution. Um, yeah, so there are so many things that can indicate that there's emotional trauma involved in your life that you can address. Very often, for instance, we have suffered some abuse, some emotional abuse, which is another thing that people don't necessarily take seriously. As in, unless your parents beat you, you did not suffer abuse. And that is not true. There is verbal abuse that is very hurtful. Um, and if children grow up with that, it has a major impact on their adult life. There's finally some research out there that investigates that. Um, Journal of Psychology writes more and more articles about that, for instance. But what you have to keep in mind, and I've talked about that before, children up to the age of 7 have a brain that works mostly in a theta state, which means that they absorb everything on the subconscious level, everything that goes on in their surroundings, whether it's parents fighting, whether it's parents worrying about money, whether it's living in poverty and danger somewhere. That all influences the subconscious of the child and will ingrain thinking patterns and behavioral patterns in life we're not even aware that we are running. So when you grow up with a mother, for instance, who is constantly worried about money, and then it gets exacerbated by memories of you wanting ice cream in the summer, just like every other kid, and your mother saying, "Well, I can't afford it, honey," and getting angry at you for even asking because the mother doesn't know how to deal with the shame and guilt of not having the money because she wants to provide for you and wants to treat you to something. Those are impactful memories. There will be a memory, just the visual would be a memory of, well, there's something I wanted and didn't get. Okay, sounds familiar, right? Because it reflects now in life. And there's on the subconscious level something saying that you made mother angry for asking for something, so you feel like you're not allowed to ask for anything that would treat you. You're not allowed to ask for things that would be necessities even. You incur shame and guilt and have the wrath of somebody directed at you, even though you asked an innocent question. That has an impact on you. Why is there unwarranted wrath and guilt? On a subconscious level. Consciously, you understand now as an adult, but on a subconscious level, you wonder, well, I must be a weird person, a strange person, a bad person, if all I do is ask a question and I get that kind of reaction. So that impacts your self esteem. So, one way that might manifest as an adult is to eat every ice cream that presents itself to you because you want to consciously show yourself that you are deserving. You are deserving of this ice cream. You can treat yourself. There is no wrath when you order ice cream. The ice cream man or woman ideally should not yell at you. um, and that might actually lead to overeating, not just ice cream, but other things. And you might struggle with weight because really deep down inside, you have this belief that you're not worthy, to be loved, and you're not worthy to deserve certain things, anything you want, really. And in order to prevent more hurt from happening, you eat a lot, and therefore you have this armor around you, which then makes things worse in a vicious circle very often, because then we have a hard time accepting ourselves if we don't look the way we want to look. And then that kind of feeds into our insecurities. We start believing that we are not worthy. Obviously, we don't look good enough to be deserving of, let's say, love, a loving partner, and here we go, downward spiral. So the only way really to take care of that is to look at what's going on in your life and see if there's any past hurt that could be related to the situation that you find undesirable, whether it's being overweight or some sort of addiction, a coping mechanism that you'd rather get rid of, unhealthy relationships that you cling on to, hoping to get something out of them that you're missing. that you cannot give yourself, that you think you cannot give yourself, or loneliness, not finding the right partner. Look at those and see what might be the underlying cause there. If you need help with that, that is what coaches like I am for. I'll talk to you. I will see what happened. I will intuit as an intuitive life coach where the trauma might stem from. And then you can use various healing techniques to process these things finally, so that you can start to thrive and become the person that you deep down inside already are, that just hasn't manifested on the outside yet like it could. Like a flower that's still stuck in the seed. And this metaphor occurs to me because it is spring and I see everything flowering again. The tree knows exactly what to do. But when you look at it like this and you wonder, well, what did it experience in its lifetime that it looks like this, all funny and bony looking and ugly even in these weird colors. But once it gets the nourishment and the sun and the water, it starts to flower again, the leaves start sprouting, and we can do the same for ourselves. We can start to nourish ourselves. We can start to heal those past wounds, to take care of the things that we are actually yearning for, and then finally thrive into the being that we all long to be on the outside, just like we already are on the inside. Perfect divine beings. So some of the methods that I use to clear that pain, to clear those painful patterns and energy patterns, is a lot of energy work, obviously, that I use as an intuitive life coach, where we literally take the trauma and pull it out of your energy field, so it can stay on a spiritual basis, on a physical, mental, and emotional basis for you. I can also deal with trauma that's even generational, that goes back through various generations or your own past lives. By using Akashic field therapy, I can do that as well. And if you just want to start working on it by connecting with your pain and just maybe crying it out every once in a while, I have wonderful meditations on my YouTube channel that just teach you how to become quiet, to be mindful, to do some deep breathing so that you can relax into yourself and just start communicating with yourself, start communicating with your emotions, start acknowledging them, become aware of what's going on, and take it from there. If you need to cry it out, if you need to scream it out, yell it out, just sit with it. Meditation is a very good first step to accomplish that. So yes, I think, as I said, I didn't want to go over time. It's almost time to finish. Have a look at my YouTube channel. There are free meditations. I also have a course that teaches meditation, 7 simple steps. Twitter, I don't check that often, but there's Facebook. If you're a lady, I have a Facebook group for support, the Blissful Bells. Definitely, Mama, ask questions about anything that you choose. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with Cait next Monday, and I hope to see you there, perfectly live. Thank you so much. Namaste.